Hi everyone, it's Nicole and I'm here to start to work on my project, what I read in 2021. Now, I didn't do one page last year. Now, I want to show you what I've done in the past. This was my last page of 2020. So I would put the month and then I would put a card of the book and then a card with the writing. But I just find that that's a lot. So what I did this year to try to make it a little faster, well, first of all, I never started till the end of the year. So I printed all 100 books, like the cover of the book. But as you can tell, it's quite a bit smaller than that one. So I think I'll be able to put the book cover on one and then put the rating and just put the star rating. And that's it. I don't need to write about the book. So, and then like my main card, or the first card, I guess, is just going to be, which I noticed I didn't do last year. I didn't put the year. So this, I'm going to put what I read in 2022. And then I'm just going to start putting the books. And then I think I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to take my tiny letters and I'm going to put the book number with that. And then that's it. And I'm going to put the star rating. And then I might put a card, like a writing card, and then put January and put all the books. And then if I put, if I get to the month of February, then I'll put February and write all the books that I read in February. But that's it. I'm not doing this December reads, January read. I'm just going to go from 1 to 100 because I read 100 books. And that way I should be able to get this done in like, a few sittings, I would say. And then I'm not going to put too much decorations. I think I'm going to try and use my stamps a little bit more this year. And you don't want every year to be the same anyway. And I've already decided that in 2022, I'm actually going to do it in my book where I keep track of all the books that I read. I'm going to do it right in there. I actually bought it for last year and I didn't even use it. So this year I didn't buy a new one. I'm just going to use the one that I should have used last year and I didn't. And I'm going to use it to its fullest. So now I'm going to put you on fast forward, and I don't know how much we're going to get done today. I know I'm going to do my main card, like what I read in 2022. And then I got to figure out, the first books that I read out of the year. And like I said, I printed this with my new Epson printer EcoTank ET8500. And it comes with a software that's on your computer. And I was able to, print out all my photos. And I think that's awesome. And I think they turned out great. Now, I'm going to start babbling, or stop babbling, not start, stop babbling. I'm going to keep these here too. I found these and they're all like grid. So I'll keep those for when I do what I read in a specific month. So I'll still know what I read each month. I just don't want to do a card for each, like January reads and all that stuff. And like I said, I'm going to try and use a little bit more, maybe not stickers, stamps, and just stamp definitely the star rating. So I'm going to take out my 5-star rating stamp. It took me a minute to find it a while ago. So we'll take that out. Oh, and I think I'll put this little girl. I won't color in. I'll just put her with the what I read. And I'll get my 5-star stamp. And we'll get going. And the rest of the video, I'll do a voiceover. So here we go. Okay, so the first thing I did was mount my 5-star rating stamp because I'm going to be using that a lot. And it was not sticking whatsoever to the Stampin' Block. So I went and gave it a good wash with some soaps and everything. And then I didn't dry it very well. And it was having a hard time then sticking because then my block was wet. So I had to make sure that my block was dry and then I was able to stick it on. Now I have to say, first off the bat, I make a mistake because I do this here, and well, a couple mistakes. That stamp didn't stamp very well, but then I saw this that was in the stamp pack, and it's kind of the little picture of the girl. I'm like, I'm going to use that. Like, that's just going to stay with the thing, with the stamp, and eventually, you know, the stamp's going to be dirty and it's going to mess this little card up. So I'm going to use it, but this is where I make the mistake. This is the books I read in 2021. And I just noticed as I was doing the voiceover that this is wrong. So next time I work on this, I'm going to have to change it and put 21, not 22. So, and there wasn't enough too, because I was thinking it was 2022. I would have had enough to do 2021, but I thought that I would just put the year anyway, like the, you know, instead of 22, I'll put 21, and that'll be fine. And of course, these are thicker, so they don't stick very well. So I'm going to glue them down with some wet glue. And then I just used my ATG to glue down that little girl. The next step is very similar to what I did the previous year. Is I would figure out, you know, the books 1 to whatever that I read in that specific month, and then I would cut them out. The nice thing is, because I waited till the end of the year to work on this project, I was able to print all 100 book covers all at once, and it took me 25 4x6, and I printed them with my new printer, my Epson ET or EcoTank 8500, and it worked out so well because there's a software that comes with it, and there's sort of like my pig frame app, but it's on my computer, and I love it. I was able to print those up, no problem. Then I went through my Goodreads app, and I was able to see, you know, the first book I finish, and second and third, and that's what I like about keeping track of my books on Goodreads, because when I work on this project, I'm able to easily figure out, you know, which books I finish first and all that good jazz. So on that little card, I put my January reads. So every month I'll know exactly what book I read in each month, and I really like it. So I'm going to give you a little synopsis of all the books. And the reason that I didn't decide to do just 1 month at a time, because there's 4 or 5 months last year that I only read 4 books a month. And that's why I was in so much trouble at the end of the year because I had too many books to read at the end, but I made it. But I can tell you that in 2022, I'm not going to let that happen. Because I'm going to make sure that I read, you know, every month, and because I enjoy it, so why not do it? So I think the first book that I finished this year was actually a Christmas book that I had started to read in December, and I didn't quite finish it, and that is, you know, fine. I finished it, I think, on the 1st of January, but I started saying this part is very much the same like I used to do, but instead of choosing 2 cards, I'm only choosing 1, because I'm going to put the star rating right on this, and I'm going to put a little bit of embellishment, and that's it. That's going to be how I'm going to document, you know, every book that I read in 2021. And I'm going to use some of our digital file with the tiny numbers, and I'm going to keep it consistent, and it's going to make it so much easier instead of me having to stamp, you know, 100 and some, whatever I decided, whether it was a coffee cup or a book or whatever it is. And I'm just going to put the number. And again, I don't want to do the same thing every year. I want to change it up a little bit. So the first book I finished was Wrapped Up in You, and I think it's by Talia Hibbert. And I'm kind of doing everything in batches. You know, I chose the cards for each of the books in, you know, all together. Then I glued down all the pictures. Now I'm embellishing all the little cards, and I'm not putting much in it. But Wrapped Up in You, it was just a cute little romance, and it was okay. I think I will see what the rating was that I gave it. I really don't remember. It was too long ago. Okay, so to make it easy on myself, I decided I was going to pull up my Goodreads app as I'm doing this, and you can watch me, stamping and adding a little bit of embellishment, and then I can tell you what I rated each book and a little bit about the book. So like I said, Wrapped Up in You is by Talia Hibbert, and it's about this guy who's quite famous. He has an acting career, and he goes to his best friend's house, and he has a crush on his best friend's sister, and he's trying to win her over. And I gave it 5 stars, so obviously I liked it a lot. Then the next book I read was An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I have to say, this was my favorite series of the entire year. I read all 4 books in 1 year, and I absolutely loved it. So this was absolutely a 5 stars. So it follows Leah and Elias. One is a slave and one is a soldier. And it goes through, like, book 1, she's a slave, and of course she always tries to escape, and that's how she meets Elias. And like I said, I read the whole series. This was 5 stars. This is a fantasy series, and I absolutely loved it. That could be one that I could see myself rereading for sure. The third book I read was The Toll by Neil Shusterman. This is book 3 of this series, and it wraps up the series. And this is about what if there was no more sickness in the world, and then there's these scythes that kind of do the killing to keep the world population down. And this was the final book, and I loved it. Gave it 5 stars. I'm telling you, January was a really good month for me. The next book I read was Burying Water, and I probably won't remember if it was book 4 or 5, but I'll just say whatever I read in that month, by K.A. Tucker. And I love K.A. Tucker, and when I love an author, I try to read all their stuff. And this was kind of a thriller. It's a girl, she wakes up in the hospital, and she was left for dead. She was beat up really bad, and has amnesia. So it's her finding out what truly happened to her. 4 stars, 4.5 stars. I really, really loved it. And I read the rest of the series too. The next book I read was Tools of Engagement by Tessa Bailey. This was the 3rd book in the Hot and Hammered romance book. And this follows two enemies team up to flip a house. And this was so cute. It was 4 stars. I love these contemporary romance. Love them. The next one I read was Crazy Stupid Bromance by Alyssa K. Adams. This is part of the Bromance Book Club. I love these books. I gave it 4 stars. This follows Alexis and her cat cafe, and his name is Tobeans. And her best friend Noah, and I really enjoyed that book too. 4 stars. The next book I read was Becoming by Michelle Obama. 5 stars. I listened to the audiobook of this, and my goodness, I love that book. Really recommend it if I love her. So I really enjoyed learning more about her. The next book I read was Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. Frederick Bachman, I love his books. And this one it was really good. I gave it 5 stars. And I was kind of nervous to read it because I love Beartown so much. But loved it. This is about a bank robber, and it goes bad. And, the bank robber leaves the bank and then takes people hostage. And it's just the whole it's very character based, but it's so good. I absolutely loved it. So that finished January. So January I read quite a bit of books, but February and March I read 4 books in each month. So let's go through them right now. So the first one I read was Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I had never read Little Women before. And, you know, this is a classic. And you follow the sisters. And I still haven't watched the movie. I got to watch the movie. That's got to be on my bucket list to watch this year. And another thing that I'm doing this year, yes, I'm going to keep track of all the books I'm reading, but I'm also going to keep track of all the movies and the TV series that I'm watching this year. And I'm going to do something like this, where I'm going to put it all in an album, and I'll probably put all the movies together and all the series together. Then the next book I read was Becoming Rain, and that is the second book after Burying Water. It's in the same series, so it follows the same characters, and it's just a little bit more of their story, you know, other characters from the book. So each character gets a part, you know, a book for their story, and I really liked it. This follows Luke, and I gave it 4 stars. I love Kay Tucker. The next book I read was A Torch Against the Night. It's part of the Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. 5 stars. Again, Leia and Elias, love them. So much action. That book, that whole series, it never stops. Like, it just goes. Like, you're never bored. Loved it. The next book I read was Lovely War by Julie Berry. That was probably one of my favorite books of the year. 5 stars. This follows like Greek gods, and then they tell a story about a couple. It's a historical fiction, and it tells the story of this couple, the love story of this couple. Oh my goodness, that's another one that I could see myself absolutely reading that book again. The next one I read was Punching the Air by Ibi Zoboi. I gave this one 3 stars. It was okay. It was about a kid and just his struggles, and it was done in a poetry fashion, which it's not my favorite way. And you know, since then I've read a few more and I rated them much higher. It was okay. I enjoyed it. And then the next book I read was Snapped. And this was part by Alexa Martin, and this part is part of the playbook. And these are all based on sports. And I think it's football. So this follows, again, characters that you saw in the first books, and now they get their own book. So this follows Elliot and who else? Quentin. He's the football player. Super cute romance. Love them. Gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was A Promised Land by Barack Obama. Again, 5 stars. I listened to the audiobook because both him and Michelle narrated their own audiobook, and it was amazing. It was so good. So the next book I read in March is the one that I'm working on right now, is God's Grave. It's part of the Nevernight Chronicle by Jay Kristoff. Love that series. Like I said, it's not because I wasn't reading a lot of good books that I was somehow in a slump in 2021. I mean, I did read 100 books, so hard to say that I was in a slump, but I was having a hard time finishing books. But this one here, again, follows Mia and a whole bunch of characters. Very action-packed. Love Jay Kristoff. Love all his characters. So, really love this book. And then the last book I read in March was Across the Green Grass Fields. It's part of the Wayward Children series. I gave this 4 stars. This was probably my favorite of the books. And it's about kids that get transported to another world, like Narnia, let's say, and then they come back, and then they have a hard time adjusting because they want to go back to where they were taken to. And then that's what the first book is about. And then the rest of the series, you see each of the kids in the world from where they were taken from. So you see them actually in that world and interact in that world, and how they got to come back to, you know, our world. But that's it. That's all of the books that I read in January, February, and March of 2021. And I want to thank you so much for watching. Bye.